Hi everybody, how are you? Hope you're doing well. My name's Carl. Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL Org. We are a teacher training company and I work for them as one of the tutors. I also work as an online teacher. I work as an English examiner. I've been lucky enough to have taught in many places around the world: China, Japan, Vietnam, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan. I worked in Spain and Italy a lot just before COVID. So please let me know where you are in the world. I can see some people saying hello already. I'm in Northern Ireland. So if you ever do any of our practical courses in the North of Ireland, you will get me as your tutor. Now, this webinar is going to be about motivation and student engagement. And I've got a presentation that I'm going to go through a bit in a minute. But if you've got any questions at all about teaching English as a foreign language, please do put them in the chat. Maybe you want to know how to get started. Maybe you're already teaching. Maybe you don't know what qualification you need to do. Anything like that, please do put it in the chat. And I've got quite a few qualifications in EFL. I've also managed schools. I've done teacher training, this kind of thing. Hopefully I'll be able to answer it. If I can't answer it, then Alan, who is monitoring the chat, will be able to, I'm sure. Hello, Meran in Bremen, Germany. Hi, Anne in Munich. Luana in Rome. Oh, I do love Rome. Joseph in Russia. Hi. Yolanda in McDonough, I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's in America. Chong in London. Claudia in NYC. Etta in Wiltshire. William in Zambia. Wadia also in New York City. You could have a little New York City get together there. TEFL teachers get together tend to be, quite good fun once they get past the disagreements about grammar. Anyway, right, let's get going on my presentation. So please, if you've got any experiences or anything like that about what I'm saying, please do put it in the chat. The other thing that I just want to, before I get going, talk to you a bit about is the podcast that we here at the TEFL Org are currently doing. It's just been running a few weeks and we're enjoying it. It's going well. Where basically we interview people who are either teaching or taught English abroad. So I know recently we've had some people talking there about teaching in Vietnam, a place I know very well. Great place to go teaching. China as well. I've been there. Cambodia. I've never worked in Cambodia, but I have actually been there. There's also it's not just about places. There's some people talking about now teaching online. People now teaching IELTS, that kind of thing. So any sort of more information you can get about TEFL, I think the better, to be honest. So I would definitely recommend, if you can, get in on this podcast. There's all of these different ways of listening to it. I've got no idea what most of them are. But I'm sure the cooler, younger people in this webinar will be able to identify all of those. Yeah. Basically, use the QR code as well. That works really well. Right, okay. Keeping your students motivated and engaged. Right, so this is a big part of teaching, and it's something that maybe is overlooked a little bit, but it's definitely something that will make you enjoy teaching more and will definitely make your students enjoy the classrooms more, okay? Now, I haven't got a huge amount of slides about this, so please, if you've got any questions, do please put them in the chat. And if you've got any experience at all, also please put that in the chat. Right, so motivation is the first thing I'm going to talk to you about. And there's, I'm not going to go into too much detail about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, but that's the sort of thing you might want to Google if you want to know a bit more about the subject. And then there's loads of websites out there. But the thing that I would say, as from teaching, approaching 20 years, is that motivation is very individualized. You might I've had classrooms of 20 people and they've each got a slightly different motivation of being there. Now they might have a general sort of aim that they all go to, but they might have lots of different reasons why they're there. You know, it could be economic reasons. It could be that they just enjoy learning. It could be that their parents have sent them there, or their companies told them they've got to go. So these sort of things can be very, very individualized. So it's quite, I can't really say a typical English learner is motivated by this. What I would say is that the majority, not all, but the majority of English learners are in it to eventually take some sort of English exam to prove their English ability, such as IELTS or Trinity or Cambridge, one of these. That tends to be the ultimate motivation, but by not all means is it all of them. Okay. Now, so the motivation really does depend why they are there. Yeah. And I think it's sort of good for you to find out a bit about why they are in that classroom. Yeah. Some students will be very unmotivated. They will. You will go into a classroom and, you know, you can't generally tell people's motivation in the first lesson, but after you've been there a few lessons, you might think, well, do you know, I just can't get through to this student. This student just doesn't look like they want to be there. This student, you know, isn't really doing all the work I asked them to. They're not really putting in much of an effort. And you know what? They just might be quite unmotivated. And it's really, really difficult for you as a teacher to get that student going. There could be lots of reasons why they are unmotivated. With kids, it could just be that they don't like learning languages. It could just be that their parents are forcing them to go there when they don't want to be there. If it's an adult, it could be that they've got lots of other things going on in their life that are actually more important than that English class at the second, and they're thinking about that. They're planning about that. It could be that their company is forcing them to go to it and they don't want to be there. So don't think that every single student that you get in front of you will be this motivated, eager, keen person, because it's just not true that 100% of your class will be. Now, the majority will be motivated, but don't be too worried if you've got a couple of unmotivated type students there, all right? Now, but some will have huge motivation to learn English from you. And that could be because if they pass an exam, they get promotions, or they can start a university course, which can then lead them to making more money, which can then lead to them having a better life. It can lead to them moving countries, for example. I had a group of students when I worked in Iraq, and their motivation was to get out of Iraq with their families. Okay, so I mean, think of the motivation. You know, you come from a country where you might not enjoy living there. It might be a difficult country to live in. You passing this English test from this teacher that's in front of you might get you to another country to really, really improve yours and your family's lives. Huge motivation. Others might just have motivation that actually, do you know what, they quite enjoy learning languages, and they just want to just generally learn English, and they just want to improve their English ability. Absolutely fine. Lots of different reasons to have high motivation. What I really recommend that you do to find out people's motivation is do something called a needs analysis. And I've done webinars about this. So if this is something you want to know more about, what is a needs analysis? What does it do? Then try and find the video I did about this. But basically, it's a questionnaire which you give to students, and you ask them, why are you learning English? Why are you in this class? They should write it down, and the more you find out about that kind of thing, the more you can plan your lessons to be good, to be motivated for them, to make them enjoy it. And if they enjoy it, you generally will as well. Okay. So how to increase motivation. Can be very difficult to increase motivation in a person. You know, a lot of motivation comes from within, yeah, or the motivation comes from something that they can see and they can grab if they can pass this English test, yeah. And with young learners, I think it can be difficult to increase motivation if they don't want to be there. I think it can be quite easy with young learners for them to just think, oh, I'm not good at languages, for example. And that way they just, it's very, very hard for them to get the motivation to come in your class. Again, it might be that their parents think that they should be learning English when in fact the kids want to be out playing football, or the kids want to be out playing cricket, or a music lesson, whatever it might be. Okay. So can be difficult, I think, to give students motivation. Now, what you can do is make the classes better and they can enjoy them more. I'll talk about that in a minute. But to actually give them motivation, I think, can be quite difficult. But the key, and I think a lot of academic research has gone into this, is for you to be a friendly, nice, good teacher. It's quite hard to be unmotivated in a class if there's a teacher up the front who is being really friendly, who is being really nice, who is trying their absolute best for you, and for you to still sit there looking all defeated. And you get the energy from a teacher, and if that teacher's nice, if that teacher's friendly, if you want to know more about this, Google something called the affective filter, AFFECTIVE filter. It's a bit of research that came from, I think, the late 1970s. Basically showed that for people to learn languages, they've got to move this line, this brick wall that's in front of them, that's basically stopping them from learning languages. And if you can charge down that brick wall with your force of personality, you will find that they will come with you and they will be happier and be better in your class. Another way to increase motivation is to show that they are improving. If you've gone through 2 or 3 classes and they're still sort of looking a bit down, looking a bit lacking, if you can sort of then do a little vocab test about the things you've done, or a grammar test, or do some sort of one-on-one speaking test or group speaking test, and you can say, look, you couldn't do this before. Look, I couldn't understand you 3 weeks ago, and now I'm understanding your pronunciation. Look, at the start, your grammar, you were making lots of mistakes. Now look at you, you're almost error-free. Show that they're improving. That will increase their motivation, because they'll be like, actually, do you know what? It's not a waste of time, this class. I am learning something. I can keep going. Progress tests are a great way of doing this. So if you've got students for a 10-week term, you might have a test at the end, which will show whether they can pass the level and go up. But maybe if you can do 2 other progress tests within that 10-week term, and you can say, look, you got 100% in this test. The things that you're in this classroom learning are going in and you can use them. Progress tests are good. Another great way of showing they're improving is to do portfolios. Now, years and years ago, the portfolios all came from a student writing down, doing their writing and storing it in a book or putting it in a textbook. Nowadays, you can do a lot more with portfolios, because you can get them to record themselves. You can get to do sort of listening tests. Yeah, you can do all these kind of things that will help you to and they can store them all on a computer, on a Google Drive, something like that. And that will be some sort of portfolio. They can then say, well, look at all of this work I've done. This work is really good. My teacher's given me good grades. Look at me. I'm fantastic. I'm going to carry on learning. The other way of increasing the motivation in the classroom, I think, is to show how you can use what you're learning in the real world. So a lot of this comes down to functions. Okay, so language functions might be something to look at. But if you can say, right, look, this is the sort of thing you could use if you went on holiday to London. This is the sort of phrases that you could use if you went to study in New York. This is the sort of listening you might hear at a lecture, or allow you to start a conversation with down the pub. Things like this, kind of like things that where they can say, actually, this is actually something that's really useful, can increase the motivation for the students. Okay. Young learners, I think the number one way to increase their motivation, if you do have an unmotivated young learner class, is to give them topics that they will like. So that will involve, it might involve a 40-something-year-old man having to sit down with a group of students and listen to Justin Bieber. He's even probably too old for most young learners nowadays, isn't he? I think it might involve a 42-year-old man having to do a reading about the Kardashians, something like that. Yeah, giving young learners the topics that they like, getting on them. Oh, do you know what? This is interesting. I like this. This is a good one. Will get them motivated. You'll see the energy level rise, and that's the sort of thing that you can get from your needs analysis. Yeah, if you put you can put a little tick box of a range of topics. Tick 3 of these topics you enjoy: sport, music, whatever it might be. Okay. Right now, so then there's engagement, which is basically the students' effort, sort of in the level and the way that they talk to each other and the way that they work with the papers, work with the materials you're giving them. Yeah. And again, how to make them increase the way they want to work and the amount they want to work. It comes from your personality. If you put down a piece of paper and you just throw it in at them, they're going to be a bit unmotivated. If you can explain it well, if you can show them how they get the answers, that kind of thing. If you can be really friendly and nice with it. You say, look, do you know what, guys? This is a test. Yes, I know tests are horrible, but look, if we can get through this one and then we can do this, we can do the videos after us, that kind of thing. Your teaching personality will get you through this. And I really, really advise you to think about bad teachers you have had down the years. I had a French teacher, and that French teacher used to get a ruler and he used to make us put our fingers out. And if we made a mistake, he used to slap the ruler down between the fingers as we spoke. No, I was scared for my life in that class as a 12-year-old kid. I have zero French inside this big bald head. So think about the bad teachers you have had and do the complete opposite. That's what I would say. Smile gets you really, really far. It might be fake. You might have had a terrible night, but smiling gets you far. Laughing at yourself. If you make a mistake, laughing. If the students do a stupid joke, laugh a bit with it. Try if you can. Now, this isn't natural for a lot of people, and that's absolutely fine. But try if you can to do a little bit of humour, maybe making yourself look a bit like an idiot every now and again. If you think a joke might be funny, say it out loud. You'd be surprised how much a class will laugh when your friends might not. I quite often tell friends a little joke, or I put in something that I think's funny, and they're like, "What?" I say it in a classroom. I've had 13-year-old kids in stitches, absolutely rolling around laughing. Wasn't that funny, but they liked it. Yeah. Don't be too serious. Don't turn it into a lecture. Don't, talk like this all the time. Right, everybody make notes as I'm doing this. Don't be too serious. That will really keep them going, keep them happy, keep them friendly. Be friendly even on your worst days. I had a really bad night's sleep last night. It was terrible. Comes from having kids. This morning I was online teaching at 8 o'clock and I had to be super smiley, super friendly, even though I'd had hardly any sleep the night before. You've got to have friendliness because everything comes from that. Learn how to praise as a teacher. I quite often train people up and they can give a lovely grammar lesson and they can know their grammar points really well, but they're just not very nice at talking to the students because they just want to get through the lesson. All they care about is the grammar point of the lesson. And I say to them, right, look, that student over there gave you a lovely answer and you just went, yep. I mean, what does that mean? If a student gives you a lovely answer, oh, great, thank you. Yeah, that's a great answer. Cheers. Don't go mad overboard because then it looks sarcastic. But if a student gives you something nice, in terms of language, not in terms of money or anything like that, say, well done. Say it's good. If a student volunteers an answer and that answer is horrendously wrong, work out a way that you can say in a nice way that it's wrong. So someone will say, do you know what? That was a really good guess. Thank you for sending that. But just have another little think about it and then try again. Something like that just is much better than no, wrong. Oh, can you imagine how much your students will lose their engagement level if you do something like that? Right, now this sounds crazy, but treat them as a group, but also treat them as individuals. Yeah. Now, I really think it's quite easy to go into a classroom and have these cultural stereotypes that you think apply to all the students. It's not generally true. You're going to have one or two or three or four or five different types of personalities within those classrooms. Yeah. So definitely think of them as individuals. Don't just sort of think, right now. Obviously, with a group of Chinese students, you're going to have to do lots of speaking activities. You're going to have certain problems that every Chinese speaker has with English in terms of pronunciation, grammar. But you've also got to have individuals within that. Yeah. And I do believe that the best way to do this is to learn their names. It's amazing how many teachers I know that don't make an effort to learn the students' names. Now, I am amazing with a group of students' names for the term I teach them. The day after I've written those end of term reports, they're out of my head. And I've been so embarrassed where I found students 6 months later and they're like, "Oh, wow, look at you, amazing." And I'll be like, "Oh, I know that face. I've got no idea what your name is, I'm afraid." Because in the classroom, they're my responsibility. They're who I'm learning. They're the ones who I'm individual with, okay? So learn their names. Now, if you can remember them forever, fantastic. The other reason is it's good for writing reports, but it's also just makes you just feel like you're happy. You're welcome if someone knows your name. Find out why they are doing the course. Yeah. Are they doing it to get a job? Are they doing it to get a master's? Are they doing it because their parents have told them to do it? That will give you a lot more of an idea of the thing. Find out what the group like. Now, this goes for adults and goes for kids. Do they like speaking activities? Do they like listening? Do they like reading? Do they like watching videos? Are they all into 1990s American films? Brilliant. Let's do some lessons around that. Do they all love classical music? Now, classical music isn't so great for English, but you might want to find out some readings about famous composers, something like that. Find out the type of topics they like, that kind of thing. You'll be surprised how much that helps engagement. The other thing to think about is different learning styles. If you're always doing the same type of grammar activities, it's going to get boring. If you're always going to use black and white on a whiteboard, it's going to get boring. Think about colours. Think about introducing pictures. Think about using, instead of a fill the gaps, can you do a word order thing? You know, lots of different types of activities, lots of different learner styles, keeps them on their toes. They're like, "Oh, wow, the teacher's trying something new here. Let's go with it." Try different activities. If you've never used music in the classroom, use a bit of music in the classroom. If you never ever try games because you think the games are too fun for a serious classroom, try some games. Try lots of different different types of activities. The more different ones you can put in there, the happier they will be, the more motivated they will be. Okay. Thank you. I hope that helped. Let me get to some questions, please. Thank you. All the hellos were coming in. They're amazing. Camel in Dublin. Hi. Carmel probably in Dublin. Sylvia in Kent. Hi there. Scott, is it, in South Africa? Yep. Hello. Connor. Nice one. What's my preferred way of starting a class for 11 to 14-year-olds? Well, that's an interesting one. Now, I think, Connor, there's different things within this and levels, you know, because 11 to 14-year-old beginners are different from 11 to 14-year-olds advanced. You know, that kind of age range, I've absolutely loved doing music stuff with them. And I think if you can get a song in early, you know, they tend to like that a lot. I think why not start it with some sort of game, if you can, some sort of vocabulary game that went from the class before where you revise some grammar or vocabulary you've done. anything like that to get them on their toes, get the competitive juices going, that kind of thing. I usually would start with a game, start with some music, start with fun, basically, instead of just, here, read this. You know, if for a warmer, if you could find a nice little YouTube clip or something like that where they have to answer some questions, I think they'll love it, all that kind of thing. Yeah. Anybody else? Any ideas about this? Please let Connor know. Yes, again, hi there. How are you? Loreco in South Africa. Lizzie in hello, wherever you are. Sophia, oh, I can't keep up with everyone. Some people in Pakistan. We won't be providing the PowerPoint, but you can watch it again at a later time. It will be on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. It will also, there's lots of other videos that I've been doing for a good couple of years as well. But you're not going to get your own copy. I'm not going to send it to you. That would be crazy. Wadia, hi. Good to know, because one may think many English language. Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah, not all English language learners are really keen to learn. Some of them just aren't. Lizzie, hi. A lot of students come to me saying they freeze giving presentations in English. That leads to a lack of motivation, a lack of confidence. Use humour and role play in achievable chunks. Amazing. Look, you don't have to be the superhuman comedian up the front all the time, but just every now and again, just smile and just say something a little bit silly. You'd be surprised how quickly that goes. So that kind of thing, yeah. If you can show them that in a presentation, the world isn't going to end if you make a mistake. And if you can, as Liz is perfectly done, if you can make it into some sort of achievable chunks, so just do it a couple of slides at a time, that kind of thing, fantastic. And a good thing to do there is to praise the good things that happen in the presentation, not just the bad ones. Bad news sandwich, it's called. You have some good news of what you've done well, then the middle bit of the sandwich is the bad news, and then you finish with a good bit as well. Lavanna, the effective filter, thank you, Nola. Sorry, the filter, Lavanna, as Nola just said, is called the effective. AFFECTIVE. It's quite an old bit of research, but it's probably my favourite bit of language research, personally. I love it myself. So when I act a bit like a fool, and my person observing me says, well, you know, maybe you told a few too many jokes, I can say, but what about the effective filter? And I'll go, oh, yes. There you go, Lavanna. So put that in, see if you can find any more. Lizzie, you could be doing this presentation. Loads of good points you're making. Character playing, no, that's the one we did before. Let me just try and can I select the next one? Character playing Roald Dahl books. That's great for motivating young students. There we go. Lovely, lovely. Look at all that. Really great idea there, Lizzie. Write that one down, everybody. Hello. Lizzie then talks about a cliffhanger. Perfect. Well done, Lizzie. That's a good one. Yeah. I've done that with movies with kids. So you break up a movie and you show a movie over sort of 10 weeks. You break it up into like sort of 10-minute chunks or 30-minute chunks, whatever long. 30 minutes would be a huge movie. 15 minutes, whatever it might be. The only problem you've got there is that some students will read ahead. So you just got to be able to deal with that. Dora, hi. How do you move students around if there are troublemakers distracting others? So, good question. I am constantly moving them around in a private class. Well, face to face, I would be constantly moving them around every sort of 10 minutes for a group of kids before the trouble even starts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, all the ones over there, all the 2s over there, all the 3s over there, all the 4s over there. Okay, now again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1's over there. God, teacher, we're always moving. Yep, you're always moving. It's good. It's good to keep you on your toes. It's good to change partners. So I'm moving them all the time, Dora, before the troublemakers even start doing it. Online, if you've got unmotivated, you've got students that aren't talking that much, you just switch them all around in their breakout rooms all the time. That kind of thing. Yeah. Good luck, Dora. Anthony, is exam prep a more narrow field of lesson, or do we still have a wide range of activities we can utilise? Interesting. How do we keep motivated faced with pressure? Right. So the problem with exam classes is that students tend to think they have to be serious. I don't think they do. So there's different, you might not be playing, let's say, uh, like charades, some sort of, funny physical games. But you could definitely bring games in terms of things like grammar auctions. You could also do things like reorganizing the words, that kind of thing within a sentence. You could even do, reorganizing paragraphs. Who can do it first and the fastest, that kind of thing. How do you keep them motivated faced with pressure? I think that the key thing is just to show that you're nice, that not in this classroom that you've got right now, nothing bad is going to happen. And also just you've got to keep them motivated by preparing them well in an exam class, by giving them every eventuality that might happen in a reading exam or a listening or a speaking or a writing exam. The more prepared they are, the less pressure they should feel. Okay. Lizzie, look at you. You just keep going with the ideas. Yes, again. Hi. Yeah, that's hello. Always love seeing Belfast. Do you have to know the native language stuff? No. How to communicate effectively to young learners who doesn't understand English very well? Right. Every country I've ever taught in, I have not known the language. Every single one. First thing that you need to be aware of there, yes, it is a great question, is that the students will probably not be complete beginners. If they are complete beginners, you just start with basic vocabulary. Yeah. Basic spelling, the alphabet, that kind of thing, and you just have to build it up really slowly. You do not need to speak their language. I've never done that. You just have to move your level of English right the way down, and you've just got to start really, really basic. Okay. Another good question. Is public school or language centre a better option for newbie teacher? It's a good one. Right. What if you're a newbie teacher and you're looking for help? This is a perfect question to ask in the interviews, to say what sort of help is given to a new teacher. I don't see. So you can have really good language centres and you can have really bad public schools. You can have really good public schools and really bad language centres. So it doesn't really matter. What I would be, if you see a job that you like, and you think, I want to go to that country, or I want to teach that online, I want to teach those students, that's the age range I want to do, ask questions that you're worried about. Do you help with lesson preparation? Do you have a syllabus? What sort of help is available from other teachers? That kind of thing. And ask that in the interview. Yeah, if that's something that's really worrying you. Every place I've ever worked at has had some sort of help. Schools or language centres, yeah, and you're not going to be the first teacher in that school or language centre. There should be a manager or a director of studies or a senior teacher that can help you. That's what I would say. Okay, good luck. Justine, you teach a group of Eastern European men English, and setting them two complex words at the end of the lesson to find their definition sends them off positively, and they always find out the answers. Look at that. I'm loving all these ideas. I might need to start writing them down. That's a really good one, Justin. Yeah. Give them some motivation. Men like competition. Yeah, these men are a nightmare. They like competition. So give them ways of trying to compete against each other, and you'd be surprised how well that works. Romilla. How do you make grammar interesting and keep them from falling asleep? Well, they shouldn't be falling asleep. I mean, I've had some Japanese students fall asleep in classes before because they've been up since like 4 a.m. to do lots of extracurricular things. Right. Games. There's lots of grammar games you can play, first of all. One of my favourite is a grammar auction. That might be worth Googling, that kind of thing. Different ways of showing the grammar. It doesn't always have to be a text. Can be a YouTube video, it could be a song, lots of different ways of presenting it. Having the confidence to just get through it, the bit of the grammar that you're doing, and just to say, look, this is what we're doing today, this is what we're going to do. It's very useful to use this grammar in this situation. It's very useful to use this grammar in a minute when we're going to be talking about our favorite song, whatever it might be. Yeah. I think there, Romilla, if they are really literally falling asleep, then vary the way you do it, the way you present it. That's why I said there are different ways of doing grammar lessons. Yeah. See if one of the others works for you. Okay. They might also be falling asleep because they already know it. That's the other thing to be aware of with grammar. They might not have the accuracy to produce it accurately, but they might already know the rules. And in that case, you need to do lots and lots of practice activities, not so much standing at a board going, the past tense regular is the verb plus ed. You know, you might say, okay, look, maybe you know this already. Let's just quickly do the rules. But what we're going to do is look for accuracy in the next activities. Okay. Coming to the end, guys. So if you do have any more questions, do please put them in about motivation or anything at all about teaching English as a foreign language. Yes, again. Can you volunteer for a couple of months before applying for a paid position? Yep. Would that be valued by potential employers? Is that viable? For sure. I would, if I was recruiting right now and somebody had some motivation, someone had some experience of teaching at volunteering, I think that would be great. Yeah, sure. Why not? What I would say to you, not everybody needs to do this. Now, what it can be good is to bump up a CV that is very lacking in any sort of experience. Yeah. You know, if you are really worried about getting your first job and you don't want to make mistakes when you're there, that kind of thing, then doing a volunteering job where you are under no pressure because the students aren't paying any money to you and you're not being paid, that can work pretty well. Yeah, I think it would be. Now, how to get volunteering? There's different ways depending on where you are in the world. If you're in an English-speaking country, there's probably refugees near you that would love to have a volunteer teacher. So contact churches, contact local mosques. If you're not in an English-speaking country, maybe see if you can work as a classroom assistant or something like that in a local school, if that's the kind of thing that you want to know more about. Okay. It's not compulsory, but I would probably recommend it for people that don't have any teaching experience at all. Yeah. Lizzie, that's a great question. Yes. What advice do you have for motivating young people on autistic spectrum? Yeah. Well, basically, I'm not an expert in this at all, Lizzie. I would definitely Google learning styles. I'd put into a search engine learning styles, and I think you'll be surprised. There'll be loads of different types of activities that will come up for that. Different range of, different change of tasks, but maybe also have a sort of a more of a routine with them. That's what I would say. But Lizzie, you probably know more about this than I do. Not my field of expertise at all. Good luck. Sounds great. Dennis, I think this could be the last question, unless any more come in. Hi, Carl. I'm studying TEFL to become a classroom teacher for the first time. Great, mate. Well done. Any good places to find teaching aids, such as interactive games, exercises that help to promote student interaction and motivation? Go on our website, Dennis. That would be, I think you'll find some activities, that kind of thing. If you go to TEFL.org, that kind of thing might be useful. Right, what you really need to do for games is to Google, don't just Google EFL games. What you sort of want to do is Google EFL past simple grammar games. Google something like vocabulary, I don't know, let's say you're doing animals, vocabulary animal games. The narrower you can make your search, the better, because there's different sort of games for different types of grammar or different kinds of vocabulary. Yeah. That's sort of if you just type in generally language learning games, you won't get so much, right? Really, exercises, just sort of think of different types of ways of presenting the grammar. Think of different types of activities that you could do for controlled or free practice. You know, don't always do writing, get some listening in there, get some speaking in there, that kind of thing. Yeah. For motivation, find out why they are there. Are they to take an exam and then you build towards that exam? That kind of thing. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I think that might be the last question. Alan, can you see any more? No, I'm not sure there's any more there. So, we're running out of time anyway. Well, listen, thank you very much, everybody, for watching this webinar. Definitely, if you've got any other questions, please send us a message. You can send us a message through Facebook. You can send us, we also have, yes, our Facebook group. That's really, really good. There's lots of sharing of activities in that kind of thing. So if you do like has anybody got a good activity for the past continuous? Put that in our Facebook group. You can do that. If you want any more questions about courses, go to our website, TEFL.org. There's a chat with us function at the bottom right. You can send us a message through our Facebook page, that kind of thing. Please have a go at our webinar. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing the webinars, aren't I? Please have a look at our podcast that we've done. I'm just in case you missed it at the start, I'm gonna get that up on the screen again. This is our I Taught English Abroad podcast. You can find more information at this website, or if you're clever, get your phone and scan it. Lots of really good stuff, and it's coming out more and more, coming out all the time. Really clever people presenting those as well, I think. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Please like this. Please